You know, there are books that describe the world, and then there are books that literally change it. A very, very tiny handful. And right at the top of that list, it's got to be Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. So the big question is, how did this one single book become, well, the instruction manual for the entire universe? Let's dive in and find out.
So picture this. It's 1687. This book drops, and it's all in Latin, right? And what it did was it basically presented a complete operating system for reality itself. It laid out these mathematical laws of motion and, get this, universal gravitation. And we're not just talking about theories here, no way. This was the engine that would go on to power the Industrial Revolution. It was the blueprint that would, centuries later, launch us to the moon, all from this one book.
So you'd think the guy who unlocked the cosmos was always seen as its incredible genius, right? Well, not exactly. In fact, his journey didn't start with that famous falling apple. It actually started with a punch to the gut.
Okay, so to really get to Principia, we first have to get the mind that created it. And that story takes us way back to his boyhood, where people just knew him as a sober, silent, thinking lad.
And believe it or not, the man who was going to calculate the motions of the planets, he was, at first, a totally unpromising student. I mean, he was known for being completely inattentive in class, and his grades, yeah, they were right down there at the bottom.
And then you get this one day that just changes everything. It wasn't some inspiring teacher. It wasn't some amazing book that sparked his genius. It was a schoolyard fight. A classmate who was ranked just a little higher than him gave him a really nasty kick right in the stomach.
And that kick? Well, it lit a fire under Newton, a serious competitive streak. He decided he wasn't just going to beat the kid up, no, he was going to beat him in the classroom. So he just threw himself into his studies with this quiet, relentless focus, and he did not stop until he was number one in the class.
But this new focus wasn't just for his school books. Oh no. As you can see, he was always tinkering, always building stuff. We're talking paper kites with perfect proportions, paper lanterns that freaked out the locals, and even a working windmill powered by a mouse. He even nicknamed the mouse the Miller. It just goes to show this was a mind that was constantly taking the world apart and figuring out how to make it better. So yeah, this passion for figuring out how things worked, that was going to define his entire life. But here's the thing. Before Newton could write the laws of the universe, he realized he had to do something else first. He had to set up the rules for how you even find truth. He basically needed a whole new instruction manual for thinking.
So he laid out these 4 rules of reasoning. You can just think of them as his toolkit for doing science. First up, simplicity. Basically, don't overcomplicate things. If a simple explanation works, use it. As he put it, nature doesn't like to show off. Rule 2, uniformity. The same stuff causes the same results, everywhere. A stone falls in Europe for the exact same reason it falls in America. Simple, right? Third, universality. If you see some quality in every single experiment you do, you can pretty much say it's a universal quality of everything. And then the fourth one, this is the big one, induction. In other words, trust your experiments. An idea is true until you find new evidence that makes you tweak it or change it. It's a system designed to get better over time.
And this is why his work was so absolutely crucial. See, he didn't just play the game of science. He wrote a whole new rulebook for it. This philosophical framework he built was honestly just as revolutionary as any of his famous laws of physics. All right, so with the new rules of the game in place, let's finally crack open the Principia itself and see what he actually built with this new way of thinking.
So, the book kicks off with some definitions, and this one is absolutely key. It's his first law of motion, inertia. It's that power every object has to just resist change, to keep doing what it's already doing. Think about it. A hockey puck on the ice. It's just going to keep gliding in a straight line forever until something, the wall, a stick, stops it. That's inertia. And with that one simple idea, boom, centuries of wrong ideas about physics were just swept away. All right, now for the story we all know. So, picture it. Young Newton, he's just sitting in a garden, and he sees an apple fall from a tree. And right there, in that moment, he has this massive insight. He starts wondering, what if the force that's pulling that apple straight down to the ground is the exact same force that's holding the moon up there in orbit around the Earth?
Now, having that idea is one thing. Proving it, that's something else entirely. To actually prove the connection, Newton had to invent a whole new kind of math, what we now call calculus. So what you're seeing here, this isn't just complicated for no reason. This is the brand new mathematical engine he had to build from scratch just to describe a universe that's always moving.
But underneath all of that mind-bending math, the main idea was, well, it was stunningly simple.
And this just shows you what a massive shift this was. Before Newton, you had two totally separate mysteries: apples fall to the ground and planets orbit in the sky. After Newton, it's one force, one universe, one single set of laws that connects everything, from the smallest pebble on Earth to the most distant planet. It was all part of the same beautiful unified system.
So how did the world react to this completely revolutionary vision? You might think it was an instant success that everyone just celebrated. But the reality was a whole lot more complicated than that. Back home in England and Scotland, yeah, they loved it. His ideas were celebrated and adopted pretty much right away. But on the continent and the rest of Europe, it was a totally different story. The big names in science, guys like Leibniz and Huygens, they fought against it, hard, for decades. To them, this idea of an invisible force, gravity, acting across empty space, it just seemed weird, like some kind of spooky ancient magic.
And get this number, less than 20. According to the writer Voltaire, when Newton died, that's more than 40 years after the Principia came out, he still had fewer than 20 followers outside of England. It's just a wild reminder that ideas that change the world, well, they often take a long time for the world to catch up.
And yet, after achieving all of this, after literally charting the cosmos, this is how Newton saw himself. He said, and I quote, "I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself in now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, while the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me." Just wow.
And maybe that's the most important thing to remember. The Principia wasn't the end of the story. It was the great beginning. It gave all of us the tools, both mathematical and philosophical, to start asking even bigger questions, and to finally start exploring that great undiscovered ocean of truth he was talking about.
So, Newton showed us the shoreline. His work pretty much defined it for centuries. The question for us now is, what new oceans of truth are out there, just beyond what we can see, waiting for the next person to come along and find that next smoother pebble?